Alrighty, hey again everyone. We're back yet again today. Currently we're on part 3 of our funny little hardcore let's play yet again. And I have still not managed to find any mountains out in the world at all. They're just not here. They just really don't want to show up, which I don't appreciate very much. So yeah, hopefully we can just sit down and grind a little bit and see if we can't go out and find some damn mountains. They gotta be out there somewhere. But yeah, we're really just looking for a nice ring of jagged peaks out in the world. Whether or not we find them, whole different story. But they surely must be out there somewhere out in the world. We're currently on day 19 as well. I've been searching for probably right about 3.5 to 4 hours across 2 days. So yeah, I plan on looking for another 2 to 3 hours here. Hopefully we can find the right set of mountains in the world and hopefully be able to start work on a cool base today. Or at least be able to put all my crap away because I am super full of stuff that I literally will not get rid of. Because I refuse to, because I don't need to. Alright, go ahead and take this idiot with me. Yep, there he is. And yeah. Got a hell of a lot of traveling to do. I'm also planning on mixing up the music a little bit more next time. I'm kind of trying to figure out some stuff that I can incorporate that's not just a bunch of lo-fi, so we'll see what happens. I don't want to just play shit from like Deltarune and Undertale and some Nintendo stuff. But honestly, it slaps, so I've got no problem with it personally. I know there's no issue for Undertale, but I know Nintendo's notoriously a massive pain in the ass with a lot of stuff. So the less I can interact with it, the better. Now, granted, a couple of years ago, I did play their songs on stream 4, so there's nothing inherently stopping me from doing it again, because I didn't seem to get any amount of trouble with that, just as long as I make sure that the songs are not in the VOD, but we will cross that bridge when we get to it later today or sometime tomorrow. Yeah, it's currently 6:31 a.m. here on September 3rd, 2025, and it is going to be a pretty nice day. I got some work I gotta work on after I stream. Just gotta finish building out a patio, and that'll be fun to do. I just really have to level out a bunch of the bricks and things like that, so it's nothing too difficult. It's just tedious and time consuming, which I'm no stranger to doing things of that, so I'm not too bothered by it. What I am bothered by, though, is the Florida heat, because good Lord Almighty, it sure does get hot down here in Florida. So that heat gets to you really quickly, even as soon as 8 a.m., let alone 2 or 3 when I normally work. So I'm trying to beat the heat today for once and actually get there a little earlier than I normally would, and hopefully I can finish leveling it out. I've done all the hard parts, I've moved all the tiles I wanted to move, so it's really just getting some extra dirt under there, pressing it down, and trying to level the whole thing out as best as I can. And once I do it, get 200 bucks out of it. So hey, that's pretty good. Hold me over for another week till I get this job, and ooh, that's cool. Now that's the kind of scale I'm looking for here. Unfortunately, the raw biome of it isn't particularly right, but at the same time, it is neat. But again, dry biomes are kind of lame. The grass doesn't look particularly nice, and it's cool, but not what I'm looking for here. Although that's significantly closer than a lot of the stuff I found, so why don't we take a minute to check it out here a little bit, see what else we get. Hopefully we gotta find something out of here. This definitely does have the kind of vibe that I'm Sure, why not? This definitely does have the kind of vibe that I'm looking for in terms of a relatively flat area surrounded by some very nice cliffs, but again, not the right cliffs, not the right biomes. I hate Savannah Wood. Wow, that could have been bad. I do not like Savannah Wood, and it does not like me. But this is a pretty damn cool place. And I believe it has led us to some mangrove trees, so hey, this is a cool place we can come back to at another point in time. Don't kill me, please. Alright, I'm not gonna lie, I got a little worried there. That would have been kind of lame considering the amazing start we've had with this world, so... Which, again, you know, it's a hardcore world, things come and go, so... But if I can prevent it from being lost by something stupid, then I will try to do so within the best of my ability, up to a point. Because there is a certain point where you know, it's a trade-off, right, of fun and risk, where if you negate all risk, you negate most, if not all, fun, and if you take too much risk, then yes, you may have fun, but you may lose it and stop the fun. So you've got to hit that right balance, which I do struggle to hit sometimes, but that's the fun in and of itself too, right? Anywho, we've got a nice little mangrove swamp here that we can go ahead and take note of. I don't think it'll fit on the page though, so we're going to go to a second page here and just write down mangrove. And we're going to go ahead and write down the coordinates, a negative 17,443 in the x and 587 out in the z. There we go. We got that for next time. And with that, we can try and snag a propagule. There should be some, there we go, growing right on the edges of trees that I can take advantage of. Or hopefully I would be able to take advantage of. It seems like they don't like me too much, though. Oh, nope, they do. They're just out of the way a little bit more than I expected, but again, nothing wrong with it. Let's go ahead, get up. There we go. And we will tuck these right. Snag that. There we go. 2 propagules ought to be plenty. We can easily get some more, so I don't need to bother getting any of the roots or anything of the sort, so we can leave it be and be happy with it. As I'd mentioned a little bit early today, I guess this morning, I like knowing where to get a bunch of mud for building down in the future. Again, packed mud is pretty underrated. Okay, a little weird. Packed mud is a pretty underrated block to have, and you don't know how annoying it is until you need a lot of it. So you can make mud farms, and they do farm mud, and it is wonderful and lovely. But because it uses TNT dupers, I don't like using them too much. In fact, actually, if they were to do another drop, as I talked about yesterday, that sticks with one good mechanic, and they really focus on it, and some quality of life stuff, the one good mechanic I want them to add for another drop is renewable sand, and that, frankly, would probably be it. So there's a very popular one that community has suggested, where it's just let Husk drop sand, and frankly, it's very fitting, it's not overpowered, it's still farmable in a pretty easy way without being like a million an hour unless you go crazy overboard, but by that point, you've earned it, right? So, yeah, I think that would probably be the frankly simplest way for them to do that. I mean, they can just change the loot table a little bit and poof, renewable sand in a good way. Now, actually, sand is currently renewable in the game, you may or may not know, but wandering traders do sell sand very rarely, but it still counts, unfortunately. So technically, right now, sand is renewable, but it is very limited. It is based on RNG, and you just can't get a lot of it reliably, and that stinks. Now, again, you are never going to run out of sand in a normal world. If you are an insane person and you mine every single desert in the entire world and you completely strip the entire world of all of its sand, I don't know what the fuck you were doing. I don't know if you're immortal. I'm pretty sure it's a generational thing at that point because you can't do that. Like, as a human being, you can't really do that for that long. But either way, it would still be nice to have a farmable way to get sand for ease of use. So again, the same deal for farmable dirt. That's in a little bit of a better light, right? Where even though you will never run out and it is super easy to get a bunch of it, when you are starting to talk about bigger numbers and bigger scales of things, these big numbers don't look so big anymore, and then you start to run into certain bottlenecks that exist that you just can't get around automatically. You have to manually grind it out. And when you hit that bottleneck, things tend to get depressing in a way. They tend to slow down a bunch, and when you have a really great idea in your head and you just can't build it unless you do a ton of menial work beforehand, not even including the building aspect of it, but you just have a ton of menial crap you need to do beforehand, it just drains you, you know? So my example was the sphere I was building it's probably been over 3 years ago by now since I've last touched it, given the size of that project, but I dug by hand 85,000 blocks of sand, smelted it all in my super smelter to turn into glass, and by hand dug another 85,000 blocks of terracotta and red terracotta to make a kind of Pokeball. And that's what I call it personally because it's just what it looks like, right? And oh, first of all, thank you for the follow. That is cool to know. I do appreciate it, but I'm not much of a. I'm doing this for fun, so I'm not really looking to grow too much bigger. I mean, growing bigger is fine, but I don't necessarily need a whole bunch of extra help with it. But I really do appreciate the follow, though, Donald, and that is looking a little suspicious. So I'm gonna, yeah, a little bit unfortunate there. Definitely a bot. A little bit tragic. You know, people gotta make their money. I get it, but that is certainly not nice at all. But either way, as I was saying, yeah, the raw grind for materials after a certain point can be depressing, especially within the limitations that the game currently has. So it drains on you, you know. I grinded for if I actually sat back through and added up all the stream time, it would probably be between 20 and 40 hours of just mining nonstop, and it's soul crushing. You know, I mean, I flattened out a massive amount of badlands and all the sand in the world, and it was a rewarding project to get the material, and then building it was annoying. I was trying to build it before SwiftSneak was invented, so that actually made it significantly tougher. I actually got desperate enough where I actually brewed swiftness potions and would use them to sneak faster. And then, of course, SwiftSneak got added, so I was like, well, shit, I don't care anymore, right? Because SwiftSneak's here. It makes my job way easier. I don't have to worry about it, and things get a lot better. But now with advancements like that, it gets a lot more engaging and a lot easier to build larger things. And you can actually be a lot more creative. And it is fun to build, but when you're limited at certain points on what you can collect reasonably as a human being that has to manually do it, it just gets so emotionally draining that, you know, you just don't feel like doing anything after you're done. And it can take a while to not feel like that, you know? So, I mean, even on other more established servers like Hermitcraft, right, where everybody's got the same gripe. We don't like grinding for sand for a billion hours for concrete because concrete is super pretty, but you have to infinitely grind for sand. Now, the gravel part is a lot easier nowadays because of piglin bartering and by extension gold farms and same deal with renewable nether quartz to make quartz obtaining a lot easier and more automatic. So there have been massive strides in just the past couple of years, but it still hasn't been quite enough to encourage that, and getting something like renewable sand would be huge, you know? I mean, you would just be able to build any kind of concrete you want. You can make a dye farm for pretty much all colors. It's a little bit more varied to do, but you can definitely do it. And then with renewable sand and gravel, you've got infinite concrete powder of all colors, and by extension, concrete itself. You've got infinite TNT by route of infinite sand and gunpowder farms, and then autocraft them into TNT, which means that all the machines that are currently out there for automatic wood farms, automatic stone farms, automatic anything that requires you to break a block are vanilla friendly completely. And once they can figure that bit out, I think it's going to be in a really good spot. But point being, I really want renewable sand as like an extra. Will it happen? I don't know if we're quite ready for it yet, but I know they have got to be aware of it by this point. And hopefully with it, they will be able to get it in there in the next couple of years or so. but seriously, if they can get that in there, that would be huge for any amount of builders or anything like that. And it actually encourages you to build a little bit more farms, you know? But then it still marches towards, you know, having a bunch of shit being renewable outside of creative like that. This song is really distracting. I'm gonna maybe skip this one a little bit here. The fact that I can understand what's being said is a little distracting here, so it's not a bad song by any means, but you know, it definitely gets to you a little bit there. But yeah, no. As they keep as they keep introducing more ways to renewably get stuff, and that's kind of the paradox of it. You get closer to replicating creative after a certain point if you play a certain way where you do these massive builds and you build all these farms to get as many materials as possible. So it gets to a weird point where you built something in survival, but because of the raw amount of blocks that you have access to, you know, you solve the hunger problem, you solve the block problem. You can't solve the flying problem per se because you don't have creative flight, but with happy gas you get pretty close to it in a reasonable way. You know, how close are you getting to creative at that point? And it just, I don't know, it's a weird oxymoron where like you want more renewable ways to do certain things, but if you get too many of them, then you end up taking out too much of the survival part of it, which is also a tough problem on its own to solve. So I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but honestly, give me more blocks, give me more inventory space, give me more ways to obtain certain blocks, and they will be cooking after stumbling for a little bit. They've been doing pretty good though over the past year or so, but before that, when they were just starting out with drops, and like the bit before that where, you know, you had the caves and cliff split and all that, it got to kind of a bit of a depression there, unfortunately. But they're out of it finally, which is nice. I do wish bundles had come out a little bit sooner though, because that one is really tragic, honestly. It's a couple of years without bundles. Bundles, my beloved, it were not fun. Because seriously, I legitimately cannot stress it enough. I know they do not fix the inventory issue outright, but damn it, man, if they don't make the game a lot easier to play and just explore the world and pick up stuff, and not easier to play like it's a lot harder to die and all that kind of stuff, but just being able to grab a bunch of random stuff as you go through and just stockpile it and keep exploring. Like, had I not had these, I would have had to throw out so many different things by now that it would have been just depressing, especially as I'm looking for a base, and you know, not having to worry about that as much is a really good benefit. Stony Peaks, nice. We're near some kind of mountain range here. We're already 120 in the world, so that means that these are some of the more dramatic peaks that I was looking for. But are they correct in terms of biome? No, no, they are not particularly correct, but at the same time, jungles are pretty neat in their own right, you know. I don't personally care for jungle wood too much. It's nice building wood, right, where you just have it to make chests and ladders and things of that nature, but otherwise, what do I care for it, you know? It doesn't look particularly pretty in most builds unless you were specifically building around it, and some styles just don't support it that well. Like, I like a lot more of like the traditional medieval style builds and things of that nature, so it's not my cup of tea, but it is pretty good on its own. And this is unfortunately one of the closest representations of what I've been looking for. Mountain, a mountain valley in the center with bits that can be blocked off, and then you have an area that you can flatten out. Same deal with that valley over there. We are so close, but again, just not quite there. But I think this puts us maybe towards a bit of a nicer track here, or at least near another set of mountain biomes again in some really hilly terrain. So if we're lucky and it cools down enough, we may be able to run into some better opportunities out and about in the world. And with the amount of wood that we've been stockpiling, the only ones I don't have are birch. Is that it? Wait, am I only just missing birch? We got pale oak, mangrove, acacia, spruce, oak, jungle, cherry. We've got all the new woods that I can think of. And I'm trying to think of what else wood type I'm missing other than birch. Dark oak as well, we got that. We got all the classic woods except for birch, and then I guess azalea counts, but you know that doesn't count. Come on, be real with yourself here. We've got bamboo as well, so yeah, no, we've actually managed to collect basically every wood type, or at least every sapling type out here. So we have enough to grow a bunch of trees wherever we decide to settle, and with those trees we can do anything. So yeah, we've got access to all the different wood types before we've even settled. So I think we can make a pretty unique little starter base. Again, as I talked about, I want that for this world and maybe the next one if this one dies a little bit too early before I can properly finish it or get to a good point with it. I want a chunk base where within a fixed 5x5 chunk area, I would like to build a base. Now, thinking about it as well and kind of just reflecting on it, of course with chunks in this game being 16 blocks by 16 blocks, building on an even number of blocks or pixels, even when you're doing stuff like pixel art, building in Minecraft, or doing any kind of art, building in evens tends to make certain things a lot more annoying. So even building something simple as a circle, right? Building it with an even number of blocks when it comes to the center points can be pretty detrimental because there's no actual finite center. It's a split between two blocks, and that can make it a lot harder to partition certain things. So instead of building a 16 diameter circle in the center for our central pillar and then kind of doing some stuff out and around that, I think what I'm going to do is, and I'll figure out how to orient it in a way that I want. So maybe it'll probably point northwest, because if I think of it like a coordinate grid, then I would want it to be northeast, so it's a double positive. But basically, I would have it centered on like a northeast block, so that way I can build around that instead. That condenses everything a little bit nicer, and then hopefully we have a bit of a better time building. And it's really just trying to see what we can do with all that stuff. So, oh, we got another blacksmith. Haven't seen one of those in a hot minute. We'll go ahead and sneak on in there and see if we can't get something nice. I've got nothing else here that I really want to get. I've got plenty of furnaces even, so I don't feel a particularly strong... Damn! More diamonds, huh? Oh, Lord ain't gonna stop me here. And yeah, we'll take obviously some more bundles. There we go. Take a few more apples, take some of those. We are crunching on inventory here. These aren't even worth taking anymore. I guess we can switch out some of our armor bits with new variants while we're here. Just to have them. No reason not to, right? But yeah, we'll save that extra bundle, and then we still got a little bit extra space, so that's neat, I suppose. Anyways, we did what we really needed to do here. We got another bundle. It makes 8. We're running out of non-stackables to put into bundles, so we're hitting the upper limit. It was still worth grabbing because it condensed 2 slots, so I don't mind doing that, but seriously, this kind of upper limit is starting to get a little ridiculous now. I guess we could put torches in there since we travel by daytime anyway, so it hardly matters anymore that we don't need them in our inventory for the time being. So that's alright. I guess those potatoes too we don't need either since, you know, we've already got a stack that's more than enough to get started. But yeah, we just need to keep riding our horse out here, out throughout the world, and we're not getting chased by nothing, so I did hear that zombie. Well, granted, we were near the mouth of a cave, so that's probably why, but that's okay. So it's just starting to turn daytime here, so that's always fun. Let's see here. Still looking to go negative Z and negative X, so we want to go out this direction. Might have mistimed that one a little bit there. That's alright. Now, technically, I could put, like, something in my offhand, but I don't feel a particularly big need to. I guess I could put food in there. That's not too big of an issue, so we may as well. but that'll free up a little bit more inventory space, and you know, it's always good to have just a little bit extra space. I don't want to put a bundle in there, obviously, because that's not gonna do me any good at all. I'll end up throwing out a bunch of stuff by accident, and it'll get too annoying to handle. And looks like we got some more horses out there. Yay, let's go. We're at negative 22,000 blocks out in the X direction, so yeah, we have just been traveling on and on throughout the world. Which it has certainly been a hell of a journey, but again, please, for the love of God, let it end. Let me find a cool mountain biome I can settle near and around without having to look at chunk base for it. Because seriously, and I saw the ruined portal, I'm just opting to ignore it because I don't really care. Let me just find a cool biome to settle in and go do some cool stuff in. I know what I'm looking for, but finding it is a whole nother story. Yeah, no, as for the bases I was mentioning a little bit earlier, building on 15 on an odd number will be a lot easier. I don't plan on building it as like a massive set of like square rectangular pillars or nothing. I do want it to be more circular, just because obviously something circular like that is going to look nicer. Also, it cuts down on the resources that you need pretty significantly since you get to literally cut corners, and it looks prettier too, you know. We may or may not build it out a little different depending how I'm feeling, but realistically, it's going to be a big circular tower that just builds up like a kind of like a layered cake almost, and we'll have some extra steps and variation in height throughout it, things of that nature. And then we can branch off of it in terms of what's built around it. So it'll act as like a central pillar for the actual base and the farms that are in it. And then as we expand outwards from it, we have central paths out in the cardinal directions that lead to anything. Could be larger farms for actually growing crops and trees. Could be a separate little village that I build because I decide I want to build something cool. Could be hostile mob farms of some kind out in another district. Could be anything, you know? But we'll have a lot of nice, big, clearly organized space to work with. And it will look really cool once it's done. Assuming I get to that point. Now, we seem to be going the wrong way a bit. We'll keep going negative Z for a while. I'm not too opposed to it, but we need to make sure that we don't go overboard on the X direction, because if we do, we're going to be doubling back on a bunch of stuff that we've been through, which is not cool. Got another big cliff out there in the world. And a massive cliff way out there. Damn. But yet again, it's more likely than not another windswept hill, not a proper mountain. And again, I emphasize proper mountains so much too because they just look cooler, you know. Windswept terrain is still cool, don't get me wrong, but proper mountain terrain is really something special when you get the right ones, you know. Just having the snowy peaks out there, and it's just different. And it's cool. May not be as original anymore to have those kinds of mountain ranges, but I don't care. It makes me happy. But yeah, very cool cliff face out there. Got a nice little arc in there. But again, savanna biome, hot biome, not my cup of tea, so I'm getting out of dodge here. I think we've also hit that point of desperation where we are divulging a bit off of the z-axis that I am looking for, and we're just going to keep going in the negative x direction until we hit something cool. Now, the farther out I go to, the harder certain things way later on become. So if I want to build a shulker farm, guess where those shulkers end up? That's right, the world origin, you know, near 0, which we are 22, almost 23,000 blocks away from. So it will not be very easy to move them unless I take a bunch of time to build a bunch of ice boat roads in the nether. I kind of wish there was a better way to build them. I remember in the last one, the main thing that annoyed me wasn't placing down the packed ice, but rather it was placing down guardrails around the packed ice to not fly the boat off. And I think just making it so you have to angle the boat perfectly is dumb and stupid. So I want guardrails around it. But as for what those guardrails should be, I don't know. Because I want them to actually, work, right? Oh, you know what I could have totally done? Oh, wait, that might actually work. I'm so stupid. So, if all they need is an ice block, air gap, ice block like that, right? All I need is something that prevents the boat from going over. So if I would have just placed some cobblestone walls in there, like along both edges, then because it goes up 1.5 blocks, even if I place it on the ground level, then the boat would have tried to go over half a block instead of over no blocks. So there's physically no way it can go over it. I'm so stupid. Why didn't I think of that the first time? Whoops. Well, hey, live and learn, right? But hey, now we got a nice idea for how to build that. And that means too, it's easy enough to install, like, gates to hop on over. Oh shit, we might be coming up on it. Ooh, I hope so. This is in a nicer temperate biome that we're looking for. You can see our temperature there is hovering near 0, so we are starting to get to some of the colder bits. But just the sheer size of it is good. I think I see some snow in the back there that we may be able to get up on. That would be nice. It's already been half an hour, by the way, so I've just been riding the horse for half an hour here, and we're still struggling to get out to a good spot. But hopefully we're at an end here soon, because that snow seems promising just with the size of this as well, too. And it's not like these mountains need to go up to 320, or I think the height limit is actually 256 for natural terrain generation. Of course, structures can still go above it, and, noise and things like that, but that's not what we're worried about. We're worried about mountains, the shape they make, and what's in the center of the mountains, which is preferably hollow in some capacity. To see, you can even think of it as something like this, where a small divot surrounded by some raised land. That's all we're looking for. We're not looking for a miracle. We're not looking for a land blessed by God or nothing. We're just looking for a cool little mountain range that we can call home. And brother, I think we have finally found it. Granted, we are looking at some powdered snow here, I believe. Yep, for sure. So we need to get on down here for a little bit and make sure the horse does not suffocate. But I think after all this searching, I think we have comfortably found it. I think we did it. After literally 5 hours, I think we have found where we're gonna base. And no place is perfect, of course. I would have liked the mountains to be a little bit tighter and maybe a little bit taller, but it's a nice forest with mountain, 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 open area that I can wall off with some very pretty wall designs, and even then, I don't have to. So within these mountains, nestled between them, I've got a nice area that I can torch off and carve out a bunch of the trees for wood to build some of my starting stuff. And then once I've cleared out a nice clearing near the center, then I can build my central pillar and we can do some really cool stuff out here. Just to be safe though, we're gonna take a little bit of a further trip up and out over some more mountains. Assuming we're not gonna dredge through a bunch of powdered snow here, that would be a little less than ideal, of course, and it would be pretty dangerous for this guy, so yeah, hopefully we're not too bad. Looks like we are out in a grove biome, not a snowy slopes. Getting up to a jagged peaks now, which is very nice. This also... Oh, see, this is why we take the time. So, speaking of taller mountains that slope in a certain way, we've got a pretty interesting choice, which we may get the horse out here and the bed. And why don't we see if we can sleep on it a little bit here. We'll get up to that peak in the morning and see what we can see. Or that one. Either one works. But we have found a very interesting mountain biome. And again, I'm glad I took the time to look. I'm glad I didn't cave in earlier and settle. You know, stuck to what I was looking for because I had a very specific vision in mind of what I wanted. And I'm glad I stuck to it. And you know, it goes for a lot of stuff in life too. You know, if you have a good vision for a certain thing, you stick to it long enough and something will click with it at some point, but you gotta stick with something and be confident in it, you know. It's gotta be something you're passionate about, that you can see yourself doing, and you stick with it and it will work out. Also, I'm still really glad that I ended up keeping this horse because this guy is a champ getting up here. Let's see where we're at. We are at 214, so near the highest we can get. And I mean, this is just a beautiful, like, bit surrounded by some mountains. We got some nice flat terrain. We're surrounded by the mountains. We've got a nice forest behind us. And then we've got the rest of the world out yonder. That's pretty cool. But the real question is, do we build it in here where we are definitely closed in a lot more, but it does have those bigger, more dramatic peaks that I was just talking about 5 minutes ago? Or do we go out here where we have a much bigger clearing forest-wise that we can build out from? And we have easier access to trees and starting bits of certain materials. Hmm. It's definitely a bit of a dilemma here, I'm not gonna lie. I think we should build in here. Why don't we go ahead and turn on our F3 plus G to get our chunk borders here and just do some measuring. So if this is comfortably, if we can comfortably fit a 5x5 square of chunks in the center here, this will almost definitely be the place. You know, last time I built out in a much bigger clearing, and while it was cool, it was too big to properly utilize. So I got over ambitious, which ended up kind of cratering me here. Versus something like this, where if we say that this is our center chunk, and we go out just 1, 2 chunks, that's pretty good. And we go back, and we go out 1, 2 chunks. We dig into a mountain ever so slightly, especially in that direction, but it's passable. And then we go back to our center chunk, and we go back 1, 2 chunks. Again, we dig into a mountain just a little bit, and then obviously if we dig out 1, 2 chunks, and then we go back this way, we obviously do pretty good. But if we say this is our center chunk, we know our points there. 1, 2 chunks, we dodge most of the mountain pretty well. You saw that rune portal too. So center chunk here, 1, 2, that's pretty good too. We go there, and then we go 1, 2, and I mean, yeah, it seems like it'd be a pretty good spot, so I don't mind it. I think this will be it. Yeah, I think this is it. I can see it. Right here with this bed of roses is going to be our center point here. We'll maybe place down some hay bales. Yeah, we'll place down some hay bales kind of in the different chunks that we're going to be building in. That's the building block I've got right now, so that's what I'm going to work with for the time being. There we go. Yep. And if that's our center there, then we've got another hay bale there, another one there. And another one there. 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 Last little bit there. Then we've got 1, which means we haven't hit the other bit. There. There. Come on now, Horseburg. There, there, and here. So yeah, we've got a solid 5x5 that, again, assuming we wanted to flatten it down, would be fine. We have space in the back to do whatever we need to in. So if we decide we want a bigger farm or some kind of area to grow or do things in, maybe if we wanted a mob farm of some kind, it could look good back there because we'd have a good center point. It goes right up to the tips of the mountains here, which is pretty nice too. So it should go not super flush with the mountains because that would look a little awkward, but it fills in a lot of the space, which is nice. And then with that, we can do a lot more. So yeah, I think we found it. So let's go ahead and mark out our center base here. So north is there and then east, so our circle would be centered, so the corner is there, and then there would be a little bit of a gap space there. But we'll go ahead and just keep it nice and simple. Write down our base, which is negative 24,039 and negative 873. So yeah, a massive, massive journey that we've gone through just to find a cool spot to live in. Now, at some point too, I think it would be cool to dig a tunnel through the mountains that would go to that forest, because obviously that shit goes hard. So of course we're gonna do that. That was a big cave because I saw it didn't load in all the way. We got some dripstone right out the gate too, which is pretty nice. Something you always need a decent bit of, and you don't tend to get it till a little bit later. Not until you're specifically looking for it, so I'm glad I got access to it. Got access to birch trees so we can get the last wood type here super easy. And otherwise we've got a bunch of flat grass out here that is pretty easy to defend and see what's going on. This lets us kind of billow out from outside the mountain where we're going to be centered at, and if I decide to do anything, it basically will be walled off between the mountains, billow out outside of that point onto this set of plains and grove, and it looks cool. And of course we could build a cool bridge all the way across. You can always partition stuff down there as well. Partition stuff on the other side of the mountains there too. It sounds like I just heard a zombie nearby, so we do want to keep an ear out for that in the future, but we'll also want to take some time to travel the world and see if we can find some villages nearby. Because they're definitely out there, but obviously I don't see any at the moment. And that might be because my render distance is a little far down. This may lag a little bit as a fair warning, but you know, we're just here to walk around a little bit and hopefully we can spot something out a little bit farther. See if we got another cool gorge and set of mountains out there as well, and a frozen peak. That's pretty neat. Not seen any village stuff. I don't plan on doing villager stuff for a long time, but it is still nice to know about, you know. Before we absolutely hard confirm the building there, let's wander around the world a bit more, because we could be missing something truly great too, and we would never know. The mouth of this river too seems like this would be nice, just to have some relatively easy access to the ocean. You know, it gives us a finite point to take a horse down on a boat, ride it down, lead it in a boat, and then drive a boat out to the rest of the world. But it looks like this doesn't lead out to the ocean, rather it just leads out through here, and if we dug a tunnel or a canal, it would go straight through to a plains biome. So nothing too spectacular, but cool all the same. We'll go ahead and ride out through some of these other bits and pieces to see what else we got. Assuming Horseburg can actually make it out that far. If he can make it out that far. Which I'm sure he can. He's gotten me this far on an empty stomach, which better than what I'm doing right now, so. Anywho, let's go ahead and climb up here a little bit. Again, you can see just where we've decided to base at, and it looks pretty damn cool. We're going to go ahead and climb up here just a little bit more, see if we can see some near terrain out in the world. And again, this is a cool little valley that goes around. If we get and I mean, I'm talking, we get crazy, right? We build the crap out of this place, and I've reasonably built out such a beautiful base that I can't add anything to it without throwing it off, and it is flawless as can be. What we can do is we can build in the forests around this mountain range. You know, massive cities and villages and a whole damn kingdom, if I so please. And that would be very cool. That is years we're talking about, so not realistic, especially after the comical blunder from last time. But I can see the potential in it very well, and I'm quite happy with it. But again, we've got some cooler mountains, we've got some frozen peaks, more frozen and jagged as well. Same deal, some more fjords, things of that nature as well. So just some really beautiful mountainous terrain. Not to mention the bounty of the mountains as well too, so we don't need to deplete this one of its iron and coal, at least super hard in a visible way. Rather, we can pick a mountain out in the distance and go to that one instead. Of course, we ought to maybe build some bridges out there or something to get between a little bit easier, but maybe not bridges, but horse paths, you know. Nice solid staircases and some ability to put down some horses, but we got a pretty nice set of peaks, you know, a big peak out in that cardinal direction, another one there, another one here. I think it's pretty neat. But yeah, 32 block render distance and no village in sight, tragically. A little bit annoying, but again, that's something we can definitely find way out in the world, so I'm not too worried about it. Now, if we're in a super cool and lucky spot, because we're far enough away from most bodies of like major water other than like the river, we may find like an ancient city very close by to this area, which would be very, very cool. But I highly doubt we'll get that lucky. Maybe not here, but over out in the distance, I think I could see it a lot more. We need to be careful too because of how much snow this is, and some of this may be powdered, so I don't want to throw it all away now that I've spent 5 hours just finding the damn place by drowning the horse in powdered snow, which we are actively walking into. Uh-oh. Alright, not to worry, we can crawl on out of here. Okay. A little bit dicey, but that's okay. But yeah, we'll go back up to this peak one last time now that we've got our enhanced render distance. See if we can go spot out anything else cool in the world, and we'll see what it do. Because we've been storing all those chests, we should have plenty of starter storage to get us going here. Oh shit. Uh-oh. You maybe shouldn't come with us. Maybe I should take this as a sign to park the horse and go the rest on foot in some leather boots, because he is gonna drown. I'm gonna get Undertale at some point, so let's try and prevent that. We'll maybe look up there another time, but not right this second. But yeah, center of it here looks cool. Got some nice red roses here to start with, some wildflowers. Relatively flat area for us to start basing in. Not to mention we got a little itty bitty cave entrance we can do some stuff in. Not that we need to this moment, but it is there all the same. And we want to dig out and not like build up when we're trying to flatten out the terrain, right? Because if we do that, it's going to be a significantly bigger pain in the ass later that we just can't afford. Anyways, with that, you're coming over here, first of all, and you're sitting in there. And now we can finally, after all this time, after almost like 6 hours, I think, take a minute to place down some chests and hopefully just organize our crap for once. So let's go ahead and just start dumping out bundle content. seriously, get all this crap out of here. Cool. Nice. And let's just keep it simple. Let's not get too fancy with organizing yet. Given our still relatively big lack of space, we'll dump everything to a chest. It'll sort into stacks kind of as we go along. And we will cross that other room. Go. Still got more to do. See, we're pretty much full up there. And full up there. Alright, full up there. Whoops. Alright, we can finally tuck away some extra bits and pieces. Like our first ever pickaxes. There we go. And we can put some dirt away too. The goat horn. Extra flint and steel. Silk touch mother, aka golden hoe. Lamel got him. And we can put our leads in there and those. Keep the book. We got our bundles for now, which we can go ahead and tuck away a little bit more. There we go. 3's plenty. You don't really need more than 3. Go ahead, put our stake back. We can re-grab our torches wherever they may be. There they are. And realistically, crafting table. There we go. Put that there. That gets us a little bit of space to work with. We can take some of the extra logs we have accumulated and sort those out. I think we should take some of that and some of that, make some torches, and try to light up this cave here a little bit. Just to be on the safer side here, since something is going to come out of here and whoop my ass if I don't. Like that. So he was just gonna beat my LA to death because they don't know when to get the fuck out of my way. I'll build a little pen for them soon enough. I'm not too worried about that. I just don't feel like it right this second because I would rather take some time to mine and explore just a little bit. We'll make some more torches, of course, to try and get ahead of this. We want to light up some of these smaller caves that open up. So I'm not worried about grabbing all the resources out of them or nothing. Looks like we got something else here. Oh, it's a bat. What do you know? You know, I always forget they changed the model of the bat recently. Well, I guess it's not recently anymore, but it's recent enough to feel pretty new. Looks like we've got another bat. And hey, this was a small cave. So yeah, we've got some nice extra bits of iron and coal we can get out of here. Risk-free now that we've lit everything up. Including some of these more central bits, I guess. And we will go ahead and place some of that there. There we go. That's our way out. Nice. It looks like that's a lot less safe, but we're far enough away where it's a non-issue for the time being until we get some better gear and a little bit more of a head on my shoulders to actually take on things like that in a non-stupid way. But of course, while we're here, we'll go ahead and take a minute to get into it a little bit. Looks like it cuts through the mountain nicely, so nope, not with the powdered snow, not feeling it. Whatever's in there can wait for a little bit, because powdered snow with mobs is just a bad idea waiting to happen. And the sooner we recognize it, we admit it to ourselves, the better off we're going to be here. So, yeah. Anyways, let's take a little bit more of a survey to see if we can find some extra caves that we may need to light up. We've got a little opening here, but you could hardly call this a cave, so this isn't even worth lighting up as far as I'm concerned. No overhang, nothing to really worry about. I got an itty bitty little bit here that I'll put one torch down, so that's a good peace of mind. And we've got another itty bitty little bit that we'll put down. And we'll do one more. Why not? Just to round it out a bit. We got some rabbits too. Rabbits aren't particularly useful. They would have been for bundle creation had they not changed the recipe, which, by the way, was still the correct choice to change the bundle recipe. Rabbit hide does need more of a use, but the inventory management tool that you would like to craft super early game when you are most likely to want and need it was not the best idea, granted. Again, I don't blame him for doing it. I probably would have done it too, because I would have been like, oh, rabbit hide. I would have made it cheaper, personally. Maybe like 1 to 2 rabbit hide, or make it so at least rabbits are guaranteed to drop a single hide, so it's a lot easier to get. But 6 hide and 2 string for 1 bundle is kind of ridiculous, so not cool. Glad they changed that. Anywho, looking up at this peak here with our maxed out render distance, we can see a whole lot of no villages, which is perfectly fine, because again, I don't need them right now, and that's okay. We'll get them when we get them another day. But we did what was truly important. We found a cool place to live in, the vision's there, the terrain's there, the big plans are there, not to mention the short-term plans. It's all there, alright? We got a hell of a lot we can work with. We've even got easy access to the Nether too, out in the distance with that ruined portal. You know, with all the obsidian we pilfered, we can fix that thing up pretty easy and pop on over to the Nether and jumpstart a couple things a little earlier than we normally would. And hell, once we grow some sugarcane, we could start enchanting iron armor, frankly. You know, I've got the material, barring lapis, that's my bottleneck. But barring lapis, I've got the ability to make everything, or I've got everything outright to build an XP farm with infestation potions. I guess barring blaze rods, of course, but you know, we can fix that easy enough. We're not too worried about that one. And we are chilling. We're chilling here. So yeah, why don't we go ahead and take some time to do a little organizing while we can. We'll go ahead and take out our valuables. So, you know, our ores, our irons, diamonds, not brewing stands. That doesn't really count. These are foods. We'll cross that later. Nautilus shells. Obviously, that's a little valuable. Lodestones, books. Lodestones aren't really valuable anymore, so we'll leave them. TNT, not necessarily valuable, but we will come back to that. Goat horn. Would you call it valuable? I certainly would, considering how much of a pain in the ass they are to get a hold of. And we'll just take a little bit of time to organize. So we'll go ahead and mix in our irons and our golds, our emeralds, and our diamonds. We got some of our weirdo freaky bits down there that we got. Good. Let's see here. I think we will put our woods in a separate chest. These are plantables, by the way, as far as I'm concerned. Yes, bamboo is a wood, but it is not planks. It is not a log. It doesn't count, as far as I'm concerned. And, hey, that's alright. Don't need it to. We'll take our woods either way, all the same, and go ahead and pile. Go ahead and get all of our different log types that we got. Do oak, spruce, dark oak, acacia, jungle, and our planks. Oh, and our cherry wood for now, I suppose. Get that in there too. Saplings as well. We will cross that bridge momentarily. For now, we're going to dump as much as we can into one chest and reorganize from there. Alright, we're going to keep it very simple. We're not going to think too hard about it. We're not going to try and bite off more than we can chew here. We're just going to look and say plantable, plantable. Good enough. We'll cross that bridge in a second. Plantable, 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 plant. Food doesn't count. Plantable, 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 plantable. Yep. And I think you can see the idea here that we are going for. It covers basically everything plantable that we care about. So, and of course, YouTube has stopped because it loves doing that. Why do they do it? I don't know, but they do. But let's keep it simple. So, we've got carrots. We're not gonna worry about that. Carrots. Uh, Potatoes. I fucking forgot what potatoes were called for a minute there. Beetroot, astoundingly. Pumpkin seeds, melon seeds. Brown mushroom, it's fine. Bamboo, we'll tuck that in there too. We'll keep that nearby to those for now, although maybe not forever because that is a bit of an odd choice. Keep these tucked out of the way for the time being. Take this dirt for now, tuck that away in there. We yanked everything plantable. We gave a crap about sticks or wood. We'll tuck those away there for now. And saplings, we're gonna do probably about here. Oak, spruce, dark oak, pale oak, jungle, acacia, mangrove, cherry. That's fine. Our bushes and our different flowers. Red, yellow, whatever that makes, don't really care. Sweet berries, sugar cane. We'll keep those there and we'll slide something in there as well. Not plantables, not food. We'll count it towards food. I'm okay with that. Let's see here. Pickaxes and obsidian. Maybe not valuable, but still, well, valuable to me for right now. More of a mining chest, right? We can accept that. Yeah, it's a good answer. Good answer, Steve, but no. I digress. Animal products, right? Let's just, again, nice and simple, yank everything out of this chest into our inventory best as we can here and drag around the rest. So, what do we got? We got our raw meats, animal products, that's a good name for it. That goes there. We've got our remainder food, we don't care too much about. Fucko blocks, we're gonna call them that. You know what? Yeah, that's what I feel like doing, damn it. We're calling them fucko blocks. You know exactly what I mean when I say that. Not that it has inherently a meaning to it, but when I say that, you know what I'm talking about, right? So it counts. Mob drops as well. Um, I can see that. We'll do that. Books, sign. Sign will go in the wood chest right there. I suppose we can keep those there. We will keep our coal in here too because this is also important. And our books. Right. Yeah, and we'll snag those. Fine. There we go. All right. So with that, we've actually got a pretty simple storage system. It's clean, it's organized, makes a good bit of sense, and it fits well within 4 chests, which is great. That's all I needed to do. I don't need it to be too much bigger than that. We got our essentials on us. We can easily take stock of what we got, what we want to do, and we can kind of branch out from there. In fact, we can actually, incredibly cursed as this is, we're gonna take a second here to make an enchantment table. Oh, excuse me, enchanting table. My bad. Don't really care. Didn't ask. Make an enchanting table. We're gonna make, as insane as this is, we are going to make a jukebox first to facilitate our allay breeding. We have no amethyst, however, or a music disc, so we're actually not, we're not there really yet, unfortunately, but we don't need to be for now. We just need to be aware that it will be a thing in the future. That's quite alright. We'll save the rest for a diamond pickaxe, and with our obsidian we can fix up and make any portal we desire, so that's okay. We're gonna save that for a Fortune 3 pick, hopefully. Let's see here. We got some good starter iron to fix up some of our iron tools that we got laying around, so that's all good. Got some sticks to facilitate that as well. Got our axe, got our shovel. There we go. We can take a minute here to create a little cubby for those guys. We need 2 logs to make a fence gate that is big enough to house these guys. 1, 2. 1 log makes 1 fence gate, by the way, in case you didn't know. It's simple little mental math, but it used to be so hard for me to figure out how many bits of wood that I needed to make a fence gate until I like sat down and thought about it like that. I was like, oh well, duh. I mean, obviously it makes sense in hindsight, right? But you don't tend to think about it until you're working with it enough to actually have to think about it. I think I'm gonna store them. We need to be mindful too, by the way, because we get one particularly good chance to not fuck a lot of this up. We need to be mindful where we build our XP farm in relation to our base and our nether portal that's out in the world. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. It's not a new thing to think about right now. One step at a time, right? Let's just keep it nice and simple. Dig a little hollow in here to put in our lays. We'll just dig a little 3x3 cube. That should hold plenty. And we'll sleep too before we focus on moving them in here. But this will give us plenty of space to work with to keep them in here and breed them up at some point, which we don't need to do right this second. And we've already got one of them in here with us. That's pretty good. We'll make it a little bit bigger, give them a little bit more space to work with. There we go. They need a way to pathfind into here. They should detect it within a certain range if I'm not mistaken. I should have 4 as well. Right about that number. There's 3. That last little guy, there he is. Toss everything they can, and they're good. So we got our lays all set up there. That's nice and dandy. Trying to think ahead here, what's going to be important? Well, I think I would like the XP farm. Maybe this is a thing for a little later and not right this second. But I would like there to be kind of a hierarchy to some extent, in terms of where I build certain things. So, say we got a super duper important farm, I want quick access to it, and I want to know where it is, and I want it very near and dear to my heart, near my base, right? I want it in the central pillar. Well, what if I've got some relatively less important stuff, or maybe some bulkier things I still want close, but I need more space for them? That's what we've got in the surrounding 3x3 chunk, excuse me, that will be in a much bigger pillar that will be shorter, but bigger all the same. Then it can go in there. So we're talking maybe a moss farm, or a tree farm, or a cobblestone farm, or a mob farm as a whole, or something that I want close to me. Maybe not too close if it was a mob farm that I would actively want all of its stuff for, and I want it, and it's cool. An XP farm would probably fit in there, but maybe it would fit more in the actual central pillar. And then the last pillar is more for everything else, right? So, whatever other farms I can think of down the line that are relatively non-essential but are good for me to have, I'd like him in that bigger pillar. And again, this is all going down to bedrock, by the way. So while it won't go as high as the world height for all of them, it still goes pretty damn deep, and we're still talking about like 200 blocks or something for these. This isn't exactly small beans here. Um, I think realistically it'll be in staggers of 50. So the top of this pillar will be 300 for the flat bit, and then I'll dome it off at the top to world height. 250 for the surrounding bit, and then 200 for the last bit. So we still clear the mountain or get close to it for the very bottom bit, but it is still noticeably shorter than the others. Or maybe we can stagger our height so it's 300, 275, 150. So that way that last bit is a lot closer to the ground. We'll cross that bridge when we get there, but you get the idea, right? How we're staggering these heights, things of that nature. Still should look pretty cool. We can keep that kind of hierarchy in terms of what we want and where we want it, so that'll be pretty useful. Um, Trying to think too, what else that'll look like. Let's see here. I will probably have to consult my list of farms that I've managed to acquire. RaiseWorks has a very nice Excel sheet with a list of items in the game, along with which are farmable. And then from there, I built a sub list for myself that has everything that I would farm and would want for stuff, and divided it into things that I can reasonably farm pretty easily that I know how to do, things that and things that are common that I would want, right? So like a cobblestone farm, obviously easy to farm, you would want it, but because it involves TNT duping, a little bit more apprehensive about it, so I don't feel as good about it. So I don't actually build cobblestone farms, really, unfortunately. So I have bigger quarries underground for it, but not whole farms. Let's see here. What else? Hmm, thinking too. What else am I thinking of? Again, list of farms. I can assign a priority number to them. So ones are going to be things I want in my central tower, twos in the medium, three in the small, and then from there I can categorize based on distance from a certain point. So when I say that, there should be a central point that I interact with most of the time that I would want to say, if I had to pick an AFK spot, that would be it, right? So say this was the center of my circle here. If I flattened all this out and it was a flat plane at this Y level, and this is the center of my circle for my central tower, this would be my AFK spot. It comfortably encompasses the small, medium, and large towers, and then it leaves enough height above for me to work on. So that means I could tuck a mob farm up there, and it would be cool. I could put storage right below or around, it would be cool, and then because I have access to all three layers, it also doubles as a way for me to build a house with multiple floors and a cooler base to work in. And it's just a little bit more interesting that way. So, yeah, we need to keep that in mind as we build. Maybe it would be better for it to be at the border between the first biggest layer and the second biggest layer. So that way it's like 75 or 100 blocks off of this ground level. So that way I try not to load caves as much as possible. So that way the mob farm above me would be able to run significantly better. And then second and third, I think would be too close to that mob farm in question. So I think between first and second would be a good spot. This makes no sense right now, I'm sure, by the way, but I have a very specific idea in mind of how I want this done, and I know what I'm looking for now. Again, if we're thinking of it in terms of a layered cake, I've got a pretty good idea of what I want. It's just how do I stuff and fill that cake, and then how do I decorate it with the icing on the outside, right? You want to think of it like that. And of course, there's a way to do it. I'm not clever enough to think of it right this minute, but simultaneously, I've got a pretty good idea of what I want. So it's a matter of, again, knowing what I want to build in it. Once I know that, I can plan the size around it a little bit more, plan the order around that size, and then once I have a solid plan, I can start building. And I don't really want to build too much of a base quite yet until I get that figured out. Like, I would like to just be able to draw circles in the ground and flatten this out first before I do some really crazy stuff with enchanting or going to the nether or doing a lot of stuff. So we will kind of try and prioritize that first a bit. And we'll make sure that we plot out our center points and our radii and all that kind of stuff. I'll have to use plots modeler to figure out some of that stuff, but that's alright. But no, you've set out to accomplish everything we've wanted. And with that being said, that is going to do it for me for now. I've done everything I've wanted to do. We finally found the perfect spot to settle in after hours upon hours of searching. We've got a beautiful head start with all the stuff we've accumulated on our journey, and we can start planning and building next time, which will be sometime later today. With that being said, we're currently on day 26 in the game, and that is going to do it for me. So, thank you all for watching, and I hope to see y'all again next time very soon. Bye bye for now.